Welcome in to the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. It is week 14 of the college football season, the last week of the regular season. It's hard to believe we're already here. I mean, it feels like it just started a month ago, yet here we are. It's the last weekend in November. It's Thanksgiving weekend, a lot of stuff like that. It's feast week for basketball. We're all watching basketball right now because we're just sickos like that. So it's the normal crew. It's Jay Walsh. It's Jay DeCoster. It's Matt Merrifield with special guest to be named later. We'll get to it. But Jay Walsh, we'll start with you. Last week, big week for you. The curse is broken.
Shout out the Liberty Flames. Finally got me back on track in the Lock of the Week column. And unless I'm mistaken, this was our first hit Lock of the Week parlay as a group. So congratulations to all of us. I'm glad I could finally be a part of the fun here. Looking forward to hopefully more hit locks in the future. So just another quick shout out to the Liberty Flames. They are one of my favorite teams this season now because of this. And let's keep it going moving forward.
I mean, I'm just glad that it finally came to an end for you. I mean, it was rough looking at, what was it, like 1-10 or something like that? 1-11, I don't know. It was a tough look, honestly, for the whole committee to have you dragging us down. But the fact that you broke the curse and we went 4-0, like that's icing on the cake. Jay DeCoster, you did not show up to the show last week. Do you have any comment? Were you just too busy celebrating the DePaul Blue Demons, who were at that point 5-0?
That's exactly what I was doing. I had some other things to take care of last week, but yes, I was celebrating a Blue Demons victory. That's exactly what I was doing. Shout out the 6-0 Blue Demons.
They're now 6-0. Yes.
Chicago's only good team.
I mean, you're not wrong there, Jay. I mean, they are the toast of the Big East right now, top of the league. What can we say? Matt Merrifield, will come to you next. You got a different background this week. I mean, you're home. There was a little bit of controversy, though, because you have a new dog, and some people are mad about its name.
I have no comment to say on the newest member of the Merrifield family. All I will say is that she is currently sitting and resting right next to me. But a great addition to the family. But yes, I have returned to the 586. It's good to be home for some Thanksgiving. And that will obviously tip my hat towards who our special guest is here towards the end of the show to help us make our picks. But overall, it was a good week. Shout out Boise State for not letting my parlay hit. Jay Johnson is still a terrorist, and he still tortures me even after he's long gone for Michigan State. But overall, I'm just glad we only have 2 more weeks of picking college football because the season has been hard on all of us.
Well, I don't know about you, but I am well above 500. So, I mean, it hasn't been that hard. But we'll move on. We are recording this even before the college football playoff rankings come out. So, Jay Walsh, you actually get the first crack at it after a crazy week in college football. You get to do the rankings before the fake rankings come out.
You know, as it realistically should be. I mean, we all see the slop that comes out of that fake committee every single week, and you know, I like to think that we're above that here on the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. So, you know, without further ado, we'll get into this week's rankings. This was a tough week with a lot of losses toward the kind of middle tier of the Jay Walsh rankings this week. So you'll see quite a few new names in the rankings this week. Starting with our number 15 spot, we have Tulane coming in at number 15. Number 14, we have South Carolina, our first 3-loss team in the current rankings. Then number 13, we have Clemson. Number 12, we have Arizona State. Number 11, we have Miami. And then 10, we have Indiana, dropping down after that beat down at the hands of Ohio State last week. Coming in at number 9, we have Tennessee. Number 8, we have SMU. leading the way for the ACC. Number 7, we have Boise State. Number 6, we have Penn State. Number 5, we have Georgia. Number 4, we have Texas. Number 3, we have Notre Dame. And then our top 2 are unchanged. Number 2, Ohio State, coming off that big win against Indiana. And then number 1, our last remaining undefeated team, Oregon. So that is our current Jay Walsh rankings. In terms of the matchups, so with our matchups for the playoff, we have number 5 Ohio State coming up against number 12 Arizona State. We have Notre Dame at the 6th seed playing number 11 Miami. We have number 7 Georgia playing number 10 Indiana. And then we have 8 seed Penn State versus 9 seed Tennessee. So very interested to see what your guys' opinions of this week's rankings are. I will open up the floor to you.
Well, I'll start off first. I honestly, I think you have Arizona State ranked correctly. I don't think what we're probably going to see from the committee is going to be correct. I think they're going to have them a lot lower because I think Arizona State honestly probably could win the Big 12 with how much of a mess it has become and just how well they are playing right now. Obviously, it was close at the end last week against BYU. They did almost blow that game. But, I mean, BYU, they're still a decent team. They're not great. They're not the team that people thought they were 2 weeks ago before they lost to Kansas. But I don't think they were ever that team. So, I mean, Arizona State, I think you have them ranked pretty well there. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you're pretty going to be spot on with where the rest of the committee has people.
I don't think I have too many complaints with this committee ranking or Jay Walsh's rankings. These are not the committee rankings. These are all on Jay Walsh if they are wrong. My issue with Arizona State is that while I do think they might be the best team in the Big 12, if that's a real thing, I think the best team in the Big 12 is still Kansas, despite the fact they might not make a bowl game, depending on how badly they play this weekend. But I don't know. There's 10 good teams in the country this year, and then everybody else sucks. So I don't have an issue. Obviously, I do think they'll be the last team in, provided they can win the conference. That keeps Tulane out. I do love the matchups we have, though. Notre Dame, Miami would be a blast, especially in South Bend when it's 10 degrees outside and it's a blizzard with Cam Ward preparing for his future career with the New York Giants. And then you have, I think, Georgia, Indiana. I have no idea who would win that game because I have no idea who Georgia is this year. Penn State, Tennessee would feed families. That game is just helmet football, and I love it. But other than that, I don't have too many complaints. I mean, the committee show is on right now. I can only imagine what blasphemy is about to be spewed across the airwaves.
No, yeah, I would agree. These matchups are pretty exciting. I think Indiana's a little too high. I'd probably have them 11 or 12, just because I'm one of those guys who are saying, you haven't played anybody, and they're, they are what they're. I mean, they are a 10-win team, but also, you got blown out against Ohio State, and you haven't played really anybody else. We talked about that their best win might be at Michigan State, or Michigan barely being Michigan at home. So, Indiana's a little too high for me. Other than that, I don't have a problem with these. These are all fantastic matchups too. Notre Dame, Miami at South Bend. Interested to see how Miami would fare there. And then Penn State, Tennessee. There's nothing better than that. A whiteout against Tennessee. There's nothing better than that. So overall, I don't really have too much of a problem with these. These are all pretty accurate. I like theirs. I think Arizona State deserves credit where credit is due. So that's overall, I think these are good. So.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Walsh, I think a pretty good rankings nobody's going to see it before these rankings come out, but we can still say we were first. So that's really all that matters. So before we get into the college game this weekend, it is obviously Thanksgiving week, which means it's the NFL on Thursday. So we'll just do a quick little bit on that. Your 3 games are the Lions as 10.5-point favorites over the Chicago Bears. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites over the New York Giants. And the Green Bay Packers are 3.5-point favorites against the Miami Dolphins. Jay, we'll start with you. because your Chicago Bears are the biggest underdogs here. I mean, they went to overtime against the Vikings, but other than that, I mean, it's rough. It's rough with the Bears, isn't it?
Yeah, because Matty Eberflus doesn't know how to, he doesn't know how to win a game. He doesn't know how to close a game. I think he's like 5-19 in one-score games now, so that's always fun. I would pound the Lions here. And honestly, I hope the Lions win by like 3 touchdowns, so it'd be closer to getting Eberflus fired. So I would take the Lions minus the 10.5 easily. Giants Cowboys. I mean, who's going to be watching this game? Because you're going to be eating dinner by then. This game is gross. I would probably take the Cowboys just because they're at home. I mean, both these teams are disgustingly bad. And then Miami and Green Bay is actually a good one. I'm actually kind of excited for this one. I mean, they're kind of peaking. Dolphins are kind of peaking at a good time right now. Tua is back and healthy, but they are going to the frozen tundra. We'll see how that plays out. And I don't know, man. I would probably lean to Green Bay in this spot just because it's at home. But Dolphins are peaking at a good time right now. They're playing better football. They got everyone back healthy. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins win this game, but I'd probably lean Green Bay minus the 3.5.
Matt, we'll go to you next. Because that Cowboys game is awful. So which of the other two are you looking forward to the most this weekend?
I guess I'm looking forward to the Lions game the most, simply because it's hopefully the Lions will win a game on Thanksgiving for the first time in it's been 7 years. It's been way too long, and I mean I think that game will be fun because I think the Bears are due for a win. I honestly would take the Bears to cover the 10 points. That's a lot of points for as well as they're playing, and they need one. And I feel like I've been saying this for weeks now. I have no comment on the Indianapolis Colts after what was a debacle of a performance on the offensive side of the ball. Colts defense, great offense. The entire offense needs to just be changed. I mean, that offensive line is not good. It's not what it was a couple years ago. Richardson stinks, as you all know. Jonathan Taylor, but that he can't carry the whole team. But yeah, I'm excited to watch the Bears and the Lions. I love the Giants simply because the Cowboys still can't win at home, and they're terrible at home. And they did like their game against Commanders was on the road last week, so I had to confirm that. I like the Giants to go on the road and win this football game. Tommy Cutlets is the best quarterback.
He's hurt, right?
Tommy Cutlets is hurt. Mm-hmm. Who the hell is playing quarterback for the Giants?
Drew Lock.
So wait, why is Drew Lock backing up to either Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito? Can we let's be serious here? Also, Drew Lock is a poor man's Bo Nix, offensive rookie of the year. Back to the main point, I love the Giants now even more than I already did. There's no tape on Drew Lock with the Giants. The Cowboys are going to be scrambling. Give me the Giants. That might be my lock of the Thursday is the Giants. Getting 3.5. They can lose by a touchdown or lose by a field goal and still cover. Give me the G-Men. Tua sucks in the frozen tundra. The fact that the spread's only 3 in that game is confusing to me. Especially I know the Dolphins have figured it out the last couple of weeks and they're kind of resurging. But if I believe I saw correctly, if the Packers win this weekend and the Bills win, the Bills clinch the AFC East. I believe that is a scenario that can happen this week, which is hilarious to me. But yeah, I like the Packers on Sunday as well. I think that game will be fine. It just will probably be low scoring and a Josh Jacobs fest. But
and then Jay Walsh, we'll go to you last. Obviously. You are basking in that victory for the Lions this weekend, or last weekend, I should say, because that was just, even though it was kind of a lackluster performance with injuries building up, I mean, they still kind of dominated that game. So you got to be at least hopeful that the Lions are going to win on Thanksgiving for the first time in forever this year, this week.
Yes. I mean, I do want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Merrifield over here. The Colts played a lot better than I thought they would, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. The Colts defense played very well in that game, limited the Lions to what did they end up scoring, 24 points or something like that. So definitely was a respectable effort. Obviously, like you said, the Colts offensive line is just not up to task at this point, but hopefully they can get that fixed moving forward. Anyway, going into this week's game, this is kind of the 10.5 line is interesting to me. I will take the Lions to cover here just because they are, in my opinion, the best team in the NFC and probably the best team in the NFL right now. But the Bears are coming off of a game in which Caleb Williams played pretty much without a doubt his best game of the season against the Vikings last week. DJ Moore finally showed up as a top receiver, and the Lions are very, very thin at cornerback right now. Obviously, they're anticipating getting Terrion Arnold back, but Ennis Rakestraw has been placed on IR. Carlton Davis is a big question mark going into this game after getting hurt last week. We still don't know what's going on with Emmanuel Mosley, and I don't know if anyone was paying attention to a certain Lions cornerback named Kendall Vildor in that game last weekend, but he was maybe the worst NFL cornerback I think I've ever seen. So I'd prefer if we didn't have to play him again. So like I said, in this game, I would take the Lions minus 10.5, but I do think the Bears could sneaky cover this game. In terms of the other games, Giants, Cowboys, they should be jailed for putting this game on TV on Thanksgiving. This is going to be just an absolute disaster of a football game. I do agree with Matt that I like the minus 3.5, or I do like the plus 3.5 for the Giants here, simply because I don't think either of these teams are really going to be racking up major points. So I do like the plus 3.5 for the Giants here. Drew Lock is a semi-capable NFL quarterback. He can get the ball to Malik Neighbors, hopefully. So I do like them plus the 3.5 against a god-awful Cowboys team. And then Dolphins, Packers. The Dolphins historically never do well when they travel north. And going into Lambeau Field on Thanksgiving, that's not going to go well for them. Packers minus 3.5, very easy line to take for me. So that's my thoughts on this this Thanksgiving slate. I don't necessarily feel great about the Lions, Giants, Cowboys. Who really cares? The Packers, I really like that minus 3.5 line.
I'm still disappointed the Cowboys didn't sign Daniel Jones like yesterday and start him on Thursday, because that just would have been funny. But
do you mean reported future Detroit Lion backup quarterback Daniel Jones?
I do mean I'm surprised with Jameis's performance on Thursday in the snow. That stopped Daniel Jones from becoming a Brown, because Daniel Jones has Brown written all over him. Like that is the quintessential Browns quarterback. So thank you, Jameis Winston, for doing what you did on Thursday from not making that happen.
Just locked up Shedeur Sanders in the draft, by the way.
No.
Can I?
Yeah.
Right, but
Can I just say about the Lions game, one last thing about the Lions-Colts game is I'm glad Lions fans finally got to see Anthony Richardson with their own two eyes, watch him play 60 minutes so I can stop having to explain myself to people. That is Anthony Richardson, what you saw on Sunday. That is Anthony Richardson.
Watching Ogletree drop the ball on the goal line?
Stop. No. That he stinks. He was 11 for 28. I had people texting me confirming, Jay, you saw that when Trent texted me about how you are correct. You have a proper assessment of your football team and specifically of your franchise quarterback. Because I had somebody who I worked with who was at the game at Lucas Oil who said last summer when I offered him, I said, I'll give you AR for Jared Goff straight up. If the Colts offered the Lions that right now, would you take it? He goes, yes, I would take AR. And I laughed at him because why on earth would you do that? So he was at the game. Hopefully he agrees. He didn't text me. I mean, not that I want this person texting me about this, but that was, I just hope if I see him soon that he finally rescinds his statements about Anthony Richardson. So let's get to our college football gambling, shall we? We
shall. But right before that, the committee just out. It's disgusting, honestly, kind of. The fact that Alabama is the second team out right now, that's disgusting. Arizona State is in. They have them winning the Big 12, but they have them ranked 16th. So that's something they would go to Columbus as a 12 seed. The teams hosting would be Notre Dame, Penn State, and Georgia. and I would be Georgia, Tennessee, Indiana, Penn State, and SMU, Notre Dame, which would be something. I still prefer the Jay Walsh rankings because those are the one true rankings. Let's get into the college football, though, because that's truly what we're here for. We're starting off with a game, honestly, we probably don't need to talk about, but here we are anyways. It is Ohio State. They are a 20.5-point favorite against Michigan. You'll hear both sides say, biggest rivalry game in football, whatever. It is what it is. Matt, we'll start with you. You sent me an interesting stat about this game and how when Michigan is not favored by a lot, it's very interesting. So why don't you just get into that first?
Yes. So this is the information you learn when you watch Big Ten Network on a mid-afternoon on a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. This is the type of information you learn. And yes, Michigan has been 17 or has been an underdog by 17 or more points twice before when playing Ohio State. They have won outright both games. Michigan has won as a 17-plus point underdog both times. They were in that scenario against Ohio State. Obviously, the 20.5-point dogs this weekend. So my advice to anybody is just stay the hell away from this game because while Ohio State should blow them out on paper and Michigan probably shouldn't be able to gain a single yard, I don't trust Ryan Day to have the forethought in his mind to call enough plays correctly in a row to get the team 75 yards down the field. Like I truly don't believe in him. The amount of pride he calls a game with is just mind-boggling to me.
What does Chip Kelly do?
I don't know what Chip Kelly does, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure what role he's playing there. All I know is that I'm just saying the whole way. I think I'd still take Ohio State when noon strikes on Saturday afternoon. I will probably still place a wager on Ohio State, but I had it in my parlay originally as my 7th pick, and I had to take it out as soon as I heard that stat because I'm like, that's bad voodoo. We're not messing with that here. But I lean Ohio State, but I don't love it. The under is the play in this game.
Jay Walsh, we'll go to you next. Ohio State, all they have to do is win this game to clinch a spot in Indianapolis next week against Oregon. Obviously, it should be easy. Like Matt said, on paper, this should be easy for them. But, I mean, Ryan Day has found a way to lose this game 3 years in a row. So, that has to play a factor in no matter how bad this Michigan team is.
This is a really difficult game to pick the spread for, just simply because I think if you put these two teams on a field with absolutely no emotion involved, nothing previously, as we have a little special guest on our screen right now. Shout out to Matt Merrifield and the newest member of the Merrifield clan. But anyway, if you put these two teams on a field with no emotion involved, no history involved, I think Michigan covers this game. I really do, just simply because of their play style. However, based on what has happened in the last 3 years, I think Ohio State wants to try to make an example out of Michigan, and that could backfire for them, or I think they could just absolutely blitz them. So if I had to pick, I probably would take Ohio State to cover the 20.5, just simply because I think they are going to try their best to just absolutely embarrass Michigan this year. But I would not be surprised to see Michigan cover that 20.5 point spread. The over-under being at 43.5 also makes this very tough because if Ohio State covers the spread here, I don't see how that under hits. Whereas if Michigan covers, I don't see how the over hits. So because I'm rolling with Ohio State to cover, I will go with the over 43.5. But I think if Michigan covers this 21-point spread, I think the under 43.5 will hit here.
And then, Jay, we'll go to you next. If somehow Michigan wins this game, does the hot seat for Ryan Day become even hotter, making this 4 years in a row they've lost to Michigan?
Well, his hot seat is already hot because it's really natty or bust. I mean, they got a ton of talent on that team. I mean, if they lose outright to Michigan against a bad Michigan team, yeah, I mean, just fire them out on the spot, honestly. But I would agree with Matt. This is a stay away play. The only concern with Ohio State is their offensive line. Their offensive line hasn't been great this year. They didn't look great against Indiana in that first half, but they were able to pull away. And Michigan's defensive line is still pretty good. They still got Mason Graham and those guys. They're still able to make plays on the defensive line. That's the only concern. But when Jay Walsh's point, this is going to be a statement game for them. Like what they did in the last 3 years, they're going to have to make a statement, try to blow those guys out. The 20.5. I don't know. I would probably lean Ohio State if I had to make a pick because they just got more talent. It's at home. I mean, we're trying to make a statement against those guys of what they did do the last 3 years. I would lean Ohio State. I would also lean the under, but not too confident about that spread. Michigan could definitely somehow keep it close. So we'll just have to see. So,
yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree with all the points made, but the one out of all of them is this has to be a statement game for Ohio State. The last 3 years, I know they've been living with that because I hear from my family in Ohio that it's beat Michigan and then win the Natty. Well, it's beat that team up north, of course, down there, but it's beat them and then win the Natty. If neither of those happen, that's a big problem. I do think they'll get it done this weekend at least. The Natty, we'll see when we get there. But this needs to be a statement game for Ohio State because of what has happened these past 3 years. Like they've looked very good, and then they go up against Michigan, and Michigan just seemed to run it down their throat, and they couldn't stop it. Ohio State has to fix those problems to win this year. I think they should be able to. On paper, they should win this quite easily, and they should cover. But there's a lot of shoulds being said, so that probably means Michigan ends up covering this game. We'll move on to the next game here. It is the Iron Bowl. It is Auburn traveling to Tuscaloosa to face off against Alabama. Alabama is a 11.5-point favorite. Alabama coming off a just miserable loss last week against Oklahoma. Auburn coming off a disgusting win against Texas A&M in a fifth overtime, something like that. I don't remember how many they actually went to, but it was a disgusting game. Jordan Hare magic. Okay, 4. Thank you, Matt. Jay Walsh, you did tell me pre-show last week when I told you that Texas A&M was on my parlay that Jordan Hare voodoo is real, and it is. I just didn't expect it to show up in that game. We've gotten to this Iron Bowl, and for the first time in what feels like forever, neither side is playing for anything. Alabama's not playing for a national championship. I mean, I guess with the committee putting them as the second team out, I mean, they might be. Who knows? But Auburn, it hasn't been good this year. Michigan State legend Peyton Thorne, not great, but hey. What are your overall thoughts on this game?
This is another really weird game to call because weird things tend to happen in this game. The stat that I saw, which is very interesting, which I'm sure you guys saw, it went around Twitter this past week. Alabama has never beaten Auburn in Tuscaloosa without Nick Saban as the head coach, which seems really weird to say out loud, and granted, the vast majority of these matchups were played in Birmingham before I think it was around 2000 they started doing home games. But regardless, that is a real stat that Alabama has never won the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa without Nick Saban as the head coach. But I don't think that holds up this time. This is an absolute must-win for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. With the way that this season has gone and the fact that Alabama has lost 3 games in the regular season for the first time in God knows how many years, probably since the beginning of the Saban era. If he loses this game to a very mediocre Auburn team, he might get run out of town. He might get run out of town by the end of the night. This is an absolute must win. So I do like Alabama covering in this game. But like I said, really weird things tend to happen in this rivalry. In terms of the over-under, I do like the over here. Both teams are capable of scoring points, and obviously with Michigan State legend Peyton Thorne on the other side of the ball, we know Auburn's going to get their points because he's just a fantastic quarterback. But he showed up in the Iron Bowl before. I think both teams are going to score points, so I do like the over here, but I would take Alabama minus the 11.5 here.
Jay, we'll go to you next. Do you see with either result from last weekend playing any effect into this weekend's game? Like Alabama coming off just a terrible game, like start to finish. They were awful against Oklahoma. Auburn, I mean, they had a lead, blew it, and then won in overtime, obviously. Do you see either of those parallels kind of carrying over to this game?
I could see both ways happening because Alabama could either be broken from last week or losing to a bad Oklahoma team. They don't have a lot of motivation to play in this game, or they'll just come out and beat the brakes off of Auburn, a team that they hate, and they just want to make a statement for any hope that they have in the college football playoff. I would probably lean Alabama in the spot because Kalen DeBoer is already, people are already saying he's on the hot seat. They need this game really bad. I think they do make a statement in this game. I mean, Auburn, look, they're capable of scoring, beating Texas A&M at home. It's, I guess, sort of impressive, but look, I mean, Alabama needs to make a statement in this game, so I will lean with the Tide in this one. I also do like the over as well, so I will give me Alabama minus the 11.5.
Matt, we'll go to you next, as I'm sure you're looking at Ward Manual on your TV right now.
That's exactly what my father is commenting on currently in the fitting of his suit.
Why can't Michigan pay the man so he can get a shirt and suit that fits, for fuck's sake?
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Anyways,
no.
in regards,
I do want to ask you a question because I sent you the clip because Feinbaum always has the best callers. You got legend from Alabama calling in Monday after the loss saying to go from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer is like going to bed married to Beyonce and waking up with Whoopi Goldberg next to you. Do you think Kalen DeBoer's seat is on fire if he loses this game?
It can't be. First off, I would love to know what the buyout would be if they chose to go that route. Let's see, Sunday morning or Monday morning at 9 a.m. I'm so torn on this game because Alabama's due for a bounce back, and they're still very much playing for a college football playoff spot because if we know anything, somebody in the top 12 is losing this weekend. At least one team, maybe two, probably three. And then on top of that, you also have Auburn trying to play for a bowl bid. They've been playing better. So they've honestly been a really good team. They're probably the best. Them and Kansas should be playing in the 5 and 6 national championship this weekend. Those are the two best 5 and 6 teams in America. If it was in Jordan Hare, I would love it a lot more, but Kalen DeBoer's never coached in this game before, and I do think that goes a long way. The Iron Bowl is even different than other rivalries. I would put it ahead of Michigan, Ohio State in terms of just pure hatred. It's different down south. Peyton Thorne, fun fact, in his 3 career games against Georgia or Alabama, 3-0 against the number, and I find it hard to bet against that right here. Both teams love to run the football. Both teams love to score points. Bama's run defense was a wet paper bag on Saturday in Norman. Maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't. But I have to lean on the side to take Auburn to cover the points here in a rivalry game. There's not enough going for Alabama in this spot for me to justify taking them. Would you like to come in and make your pick? He is a gambling PSA at the moment.
If you want to make money this evening, put your money on Duke right now before the game tips.
That is in regards to the Duke-Kansas game tipping off in 8 minutes. So only you three get the benefit from that gambling advice because this podcast will not be posted, or until a later date. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that cameo here. There we go. Also, Breslin Merrifield is better than whatever dog Kirk Herbstreit now trots around on College game day. That's a menace that is distracting kickers better than using timeouts. Who needs a timeout? We can just throw Kirk Herbstreit's dog on the field to ice him instead.
You don't like Peter?
Peter?
Yeah, Peter.
Peter Griffin?
Peter.
Yeah,
I know. I
I
realize that.
Clutch kicker. How about They kicked it on the sidelines for the girl this weekend on game day.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He got iced by the dog. But anyways,
So, Matt, to answer your question, Kalen DeBoer's buyout, second largest in the country, $70 million.
it's a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of offensive tackles.
A lot of NIL buyout.
That's what.
Fun fact, the largest buyout in the country, Kirby Smart, $118 million.
Hey! All I'm gonna say is that all you need is to go to Legend from Alabama and say, "Can you donate $18.55?" I'm sure if you get enough of them, you can afford it, guys.
Hey, it's that little money that counts, don't you know? Because NIL shouldn't be from the pockets of the small people.
What you spend
but
on
if you donate now,
tickets isn't enough. You need to give more.
Exactly.
I feel like it's a unison.
Also, Matt, you mentioned the 5 and 6 bowl this week, how it should be Kansas and Auburn in it. I can't believe you didn't mention the Michigan State Spartans that barely beat a 1-9 Purdue team. I mean, come on, they should be in that.
Hey, they're Indiana's best win. That's got to count for something, right, guys?
Wow.
Quality win, noted quality win at Michigan State.
I mean, yeah, it's something. But we'll move on to the final game we have on this sheet. It is a rivalry renewed. It has been 12 years since this game has been played. It is the Texas Longhorns, a 5.5-point favorite, headed to College Station, takes on Texas A&M. The over-under is 48.5. The winner of this game gets the joy of going to Atlanta to play Georgia in the SEC title. Jay, we'll start with you on this one. Obviously, this is a game the fan bases have wanted since A&M went to the SEC. Obviously, it never happened. Took Texas going to the SEC to make it happen. Do you think the alcohol will be flowing a little bit too much in College Station on Saturday night?
Alcohol plenty in College Station. The rivalry is back. Night game at College Station is always dangerous. Texas has looked a little vulnerable. I'm not gonna lie. I know they beat the brakes off Kentucky, but Kentucky's pretty bad. I mean, 5.5 is the devil's number. I'm a little scared by this number, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think Texas A&M can keep it pretty close. They're coming off that bad loss. I think they'll be juiced up for this game. I will take Texas to win, but I do like A&M to cover this game. I mean, if Matt, you mentioned that there's going to be a top 10 team loses this week. I could see Texas losing. This would be the game that the top 10 team would lose. Texas will pull it off, though. It's going to be a good game, I think. I also do like the over in this spot. Points will be had in this game, so I will lean Texas A&M to cover. I do like Texas to win, though, so it's going to be a good one.
And Matt, you did mention that a top 12 team is going to end up losing this weekend. Do you think it will be this Texas team going on the road in a very tough environment in College Station?
I do, unfortunately, and just to make this play, because this playoff has just been a headache all season long. And I once again, this A&M team should not be in the playoff conversation, but a win in this game will put them right back in it, obviously giving them also a shot at an automatic bid. 5.5 points, too many points. I would definitely take A&M here. They have won all but one game at home this year, and that was the Notre Dame game, who turns out might actually be pretty good. Texas has not beaten a team that's currently ranked this year. They have their ranked wins are Oklahoma and Michigan, and Vanderbilt, none of which are ranked anymore. They have the one Georgia game. I like Quinn Ewers, but this going into Aggieland, 7:30. Texas A&M needs to win. It's a must-win football game. I find it hard not to take the Aggies here, and it's just for the way the season's gone. It's the most predictable thing in the world to and not only cover, but for the Aggies to go and win this football game.
And Jay Walsh, we'll end with you here. The last time these two teams played was 2011 on Thanksgiving night. Texas won 27-25 on a last-second field goal. Do you know who the kicker was for Texas that hit that game-winning field goal?
I do, because I was, in fact, watching the Monday Night Football broadcast last night when they talked about it. It was Justin Tucker. And going into this game, this is a very This is a very interesting game because, as Matt said, realistically, even with a win, Texas A&M should not be in the discussion for the playoff field, even though they unfortunately will be if they win this game. I think the underrated part of this is if Texas loses this game, they very realistically should potentially be left out of the playoff. Every argument that people make about Indiana's strength of schedule 100% applies to Texas this year as well. 2-loss Texas with no good wins on the schedule. Their best win this season is probably Vanderbilt, who is very mediocre. I mean, they've had their moments, but they're not a good team. 2-loss Texas this year with no good wins, very realistically probably should be on the chopping block. They unfortunately will not be regardless. In terms of this game, I like where Jay was going. I think Texas wins this game, but I do like Texas A&M to cover, simply because I do think they are a very talented team, and I think the talent will end up prevailing. Obviously, night game at Kyle Field is always a very difficult environment. I do like the over because both of these teams are very capable of scoring points, but I would take Texas to win, but I do like the Aggies to cover in this one.
I mean, I'm just excited to see this game because I think this may be a shootout, honestly, with the way that A&M looked at points last week. I mean, that defense, some of those plays were yikes. I think Texas can put up points fast. I also don't think the Texas defense is all that, so that may lean into A&M putting up some more points there. So I like the over in this one. Very much like the over. I think A&M covers. I don't know if they win this game, but I like A&M plus the 5.5. So we will move on to our committee picks for the week. But of course, before that, we got to take a look at the standings. I continue my lead at the top after a 2-3 week, though. I mean, we're starting to slip up a little bit, but we're still over 500. We're 38-30. Matt's in second place, 40-38. Jay, you're in third at 35-37. Jay Walsh, you're still at the bottom even after getting your lock at 31-39. So we're not going to do what we did last week. We're not going to make you go first, Jay Walsh. I will go first as the person at the top of the leaderboard. So let's get into it. Friday, for some reason, Stanford is playing at San Jose State. Don't know why. Give me the Spartans minus 9.5. Because why not? Stanford hasn't been great. I know they beat Louisville at home. I don't know. It's weird that Stanford is playing a road non-conference game against a Mountain West opponent on the last week of the regular season. Whatever. It is what it is. Second pick, you guys said to stay away from it. I'm not. Give me Ohio State minus 20.5 against Michigan. They have to prove a statement here, and I said that before. I think they get it done. A&M, I took them plus the 5.5. I feel like I'm falling into a few traps here, but I'm going to do it anyways. So give me A&M plus 5.5. We're going to take New Mexico minus 2.5 on the island against Hawaii because that athletic department is an absolute shit show right now. Just corruption everywhere. It's so much fun following politics of Hawaii and their athletic department and the whole school because it is just a unmitigated disaster. The Aloha Stadium has been condemned for demolition for 4 years now. Still absolutely nothing touched of it. And now you're firing ADs even when they were doing stuff good. Final pick of the week. We're taking it over. In the biggest game in the Northeast, it is the Connecticut UMass game. Give me the over 49.5. I couldn't wear this last week because it was stuck in Pontiac, Michigan at the distribution center. But UConn covered last week in the Carrier Dome or JMA Wireless Dome, whatever you want to call it. Sadly, it didn't come crumbling down. That's a disappointment. But in this battle for, I believe it's the Bean Pot, the UMass NIL Collective have created a trophy for this game, and I believe it is a Bean Pot. So give me the over in this one. So I love it. Matt, we move on to you. Let's hear the parlay for the week.
Well, first off, I'll start with the last pick because I just had to explain the saga of Hawaii athletics to my father because he was confused why you took New Mexico and the Lobos on the island. My first pick, or my last pick, I guess, of the parlay, I'm taking Hawaii +2. You don't go against the Rainbow Warriors on the island. They are 5-1 against the number this year. The only one time they haven't covered was against Delaware State in week 0. I love Hawaii here. They can lose by 1 and still cover. New Mexico's not very good. It's a night and day difference. I know there's corruption, and maybe after this you can explain to my father better than I can about what exactly is happening in the Hawaii athletic department. But anyways, I'll then move on to, after Hawaii, I'm taking Clemson -2.5 against the Gamecocks in a quasi playoff game in South Carolina this weekend at Clemson. 2.5 points. I think South Carolina is good. I think Clemson is a playoff caliber team. They've shown that multiple times this year. I want them to win because I want this team in the playoff because they are actually one of the 12 more entertaining teams in college football. No, like Nick, you and I talked about over the weekend, let's just put the 12 funnest teams in the playoff. Florida, Kansas, you guys are hot. We should be putting them in.
Colorado.
Not Colorado. Next up, after Clemson, I'm taking Penn State -24.5 against Maryland. Penn State needs to win one football game, and they are in the playoff. And they're going to take care of business. Home senior day. Maryland is terrible this year, just been an absolute disaster of a season for Mike Locksley in a year where they were supposed to be good and maybe actually do something. Obviously, they didn't have Tagovailoa at their quarterback spot, and that would have been a big difference for them. Penn State's going to blow them out, cover the 24.5. Next up, I've been burned by this team multiple times this year and I've been burned by the team I'm betting against multiple times this year, but I'm taking Wazoo -17 at home against Wyoming. Wyoming stinks. I know they stink. They can't keep doing this. Wazoo's finally at home. The other times when I've taken Wazoo, they've been on the road. This is a bad road team, but Washington State at home in Pullman is a different environment. Senior day in the zoo. Give me Washington State -17. I'm also going to take another big spread in the Big Ten. Give me Indiana -29 against Purdue. Purdue is an awful football team. I saw that firsthand on Friday night. They might be the worst Big Ten team since they expanded to 14 teams with Rutgers and Maryland a decade ago. This is awful. And Indiana, obviously coming off their loss, they're going to lick their chops, and they know they just need to take care of business and win. Kurt Signetti's going to have them right senior day. They're going to go out and take care of business against a god-awful Purdue team. And then my last pick, another rivalry game, another home team. Give me Oregon -19 against Washington. Dan Lanning wants to make a statement. They've lost 3 in a row. He's 0-3 against the Huskies in his career. They get one. They get their revenge for last year. Jed Fish, I don't think, is a very good head coach. I'm not a fan of him. I don't exactly remember what Dan Lanning's record was against Arizona the last 2 years, if they even played Oregon. But obviously Oregon, their only kryptonite the last couple of years under Dan Lanning has been the Washington Huskies. I think they not only win on senior day, but they blow them out. Big-time win. So those are my 6 picks. Clemson, Penn State, Washington State, Indiana, Oregon, and Hawaii. All 6 home teams, and most of them are big-time favorites. So hopefully they get it done. I do have a special pick from my father. He is all over Georgia Tech +19.5 on Friday night against the Bulldogs. He loves the Yellow Jackets and the Rumbling Wreck to pull off an upset, or at least stay within 20 points of the Georgia Bulldogs and maybe cause some more chaos. So I pass the floor on to whoever's in third place.
That would be Jay DeCoster.
All right. Well, we get a chance to go over 500 because it'll be the first time all season, and we kind of need it. So coming off a 4-1 week, we're going to continue. We're going to continue to go in here. Arizona State takes on Arizona. Arizona's a bad football team. I like Arizona State minus the 8.5. They're fighting for their playoff lives here. Like them to cover that 8.5 against a pretty disappointing and bad Arizona team this year. We're going to Army versus UTSA. Army's been struggling the last few weeks. They're going to bounce back at home senior day against a pretty mediocre UTSA team. I like Army minus the 6.5 for America. Baylor and Kansas. Kansas has been playing some solid football recently. Baylor is a 1.5 point favorite. I like Baylor in the spot. Kansas is a huge public favorite this week. I think 91% of the bets are on Kansas in the spot. I like Baylor at home to get to 8-4 and ruin Kansas's playoff hopes, or not playoff hopes, bowl hopes, I would say. So I will take Baylor plus the 1.5. Going Indiana, Purdue, I like Indiana minus the 28.5 or 29, wherever you get it. I like them as well. They just beat up on really bad teams. And Purdue's god-awful. That was probably the worst football game I've ever watched last Friday. So give me Indiana minus the 29. And then Boise State versus Oregon State. Boise State's also needs this game for their playoff, obviously for their playoff hopes. They are a big favorite against Oregon State at home. I like Boise State minus 18.5 with Ashton Genty to continue rolling. And that is my lock, minus the 18.5. So those are my 5 picks. Hopefully we get above 500 to close out this season.
And Jay Walsh, will close out with you. You can't go over 500 this weekend, but you sure can get closer to it.
Thank you for pointing that out, Nick. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, getting into the picks, I do want to put a note. I also was very much thinking about that Indiana spread against Purdue, the 28.5. The reason I decided to go against it is I don't like the fact that they could win that game by 4 touchdowns and not cover. I really don't like that, and that is the number one reason why I did not take that. But I do expect Indiana to put a beat down on Purdue this week, seeing as they need to at this point. So without further ado, I'll get into my picks. A lot of them have already been said. I also have Clemson minus 2.5 as my first pick against South Carolina. That is also my lock of the week this week. Let's make it 2 in a row. Start a hot streak here. South Carolina is a solid team, but if you look at their schedule, pretty much all of their kind of marquee wins have been at home. They're going into the other Death Valley this week in what Matt accurately described as a quasi playoff game. The loser of this game is out. The winner is in. I like Clemson in this spot. My next pick, I'm going with Tennessee minus 10.5 at Vanderbilt. This is another game that Tennessee is, if they lose this game, they are going to be dangerously close to that cutoff line. So this is a big game for them. This is a game that they could definitely use some style points. I think they take care of business against the in-state. I don't even know if you can call it a rival. I mean, this is one of the biggest instances of kind of the big brother, little brother in a single state out there. So I'm taking Tennessee. They're a much more talented team, and they're playing for something this week. Next pick, I'm also going with Penn State minus 24.5 against Maryland. Maryland's a dead team. They have lost 4 in a row. Including a game that was not as close as the final score indicated against Iowa last week. They are just a dead team. They're a dead program right now. Give me Penn State with the style points here against the Terrapins at home. I like Arizona State minus 8.5 as well at Arizona. Arizona State, like Jay said, is playing for a playoff spot, playing for that Big 12 championship. This is a game that they absolutely have to have. I like them in this one. I think this is a game they win by probably 2 touchdowns. So I do like that 8.5 point spread. And then my final pick, I'm going with UAB plus 2.5 at Charlotte. Neither of these teams are very good. Neither of these teams are, not really a whole lot else needs to be said other than neither of these teams are very good. But UAB, when they have had success this year, they have been able to run the ball. They ran the ball very well last week, and Charlotte has a god-awful run defense. So I am rolling with the Blazers in this one. Give me the 2.5 point spread on the road. So those are my 5 picks for this week. Clemson, Tennessee, Penn State, Arizona State, and UAB. Hopefully we can end the season on a high note and get into postseason play here.
Yeah, I mean, we are very quickly approaching postseason play here. The fact that Hawaii game on the island is the last, it technically is the last game of the regular season. I know the Army-Navy game is still there, but for the real season, it's the last week of the season or last game of the regular season. So with that, Matt, Jay Walsh, I mean, we've come basically to the end of the regular season here. What are your overall takeaways? Obviously, we still have this week left, but Jay Walsh, I'll start with you. What's kind of your overall takeaway, at least of the regular season?
I mean, it's definitely been fairly chaotic. I think this was a perfect year to institute the 12-team playoff, just simply because I don't really think there's any great teams this year. I mean, Oregon is a very good team. I could easily see them being upset by any of the teams in the top 10 realistically. So there's not really that one or two great teams that just kind of stand above the rest like there has been the past couple years. So I think this is a great year for the 12-team playoff simply because there are a ton of potential upsets on the board. It is a little bit difficult to fill out that 12-team bracket simply because we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty in terms of that kind of 10, 11, 12 spot with some teams that realistically probably don't deserve to be playing for a national championship. But I digress. I think this is a great season to debut it. I think we all kind of expected Oregon to be in this position to end the regular season. Aside from that, not really a whole lot else. I'm excited for the 12-team playoff and all the matchups just simply because, like I said, I think there's a decent chance for some upsets.
Jay, we'll go to you next. Kind of what's your overall takeaway of this regular season?
I would agree. I would agree with Jay Walsh. Very chaotic. I mean, it's wide open. I mean, there's no team in college football right now that's like unbeatable. Like Oregon's very beatable. Ohio State. I mean, none of these teams are unbeatable. I mean, it's wide open. I mean, you got teams like Indiana, that we thought they weren't going to be much this year. I mean, they might go to the playoff. It's just a wide open kind of college football league this year. So I would say, it's a great way for the playoff to kick off. I mean, it's, love it or hate it. I mean, it's great for the chaos. So, and also another thing to point off that Jay Walsh hit his luck last week. So it's a great way to kick off the season. So we love it. We love to see it. So.
And then Matt, we'll end with you. Just kind of what are your overall takeaways from this regular season?
I think this college football playoff is perfect for the executives at ESPN. They're looking to line their pockets because it's going to be entertaining and people are going to watch because, well, we don't know who's going to win the first round of games.
Yes, we do.
No,
Whoever plays James Franklin.
Okay, well, we have a James Franklin hater in the house right now. But other than that, I mean, my thing is we don't have a good 12 teams worth of playoffs. Like, we don't have 12 playoff caliber teams, 12 national championship caliber teams. And now I could be the big grouch that argues we shouldn't have a 64-team tournament in March Madness because the 16 seeds aren't actually capable of competing.
Hater.
So we'll see if this is actually worth the fun. I don't know. We'll see. Is it worth killing bowl season over? We're about to find out if this is actually fun enough to continue with. But I'm excited to see who is actually going to come on top. I think it'll be Oregon, Ohio State. Those are the two best teams in the country, and they've kind of proven themselves over the course of the year. But it's been chaos, and I guess it's been fun from that standpoint. So all I can ask is that it continues to be fun for the next, month and a half until we get to the end of this road. But overall, I'm happy with it, and we'll see. We'll see if the committee doesn't ruin it.
Well, Matt, you 100% know the committee is going to ruin it somehow because they'll find a way. They always do. Before we leave, obviously it's Thanksgiving week, so I have to bring this up because I very much have a very strong opinion about it. Jay, I'll start with you with this question. Are you in or out on turkey?
Absolutely. It's no question about it.
Absolutely what? It's in or out?
In, yes. Of course.
Okay.
Nothing like I don't like the only part about the turkey I don't like is just when it gets dry and like just the white meat. It's just no flavor. I'm sure you guys
You're cooking your turkey wrong, Jay.
Well, I don't deep fry the turkey, so I mean we don't deep
Let me
fry.
come over, teach Mary Jo how to cook up, how to chef up a nice some good stuffing, nice turkey.
And who taught you?
That's right.
It doesn't matter. You're cooking your turkey wrong, Mary Jo. Or is Steve the one that cooks up the turkey? I
No,
think it's got to be Mary Jo. It's got to be.
I'll pass that over to her. She'll
Pass along the recipe.
Matt, I'm sure your answer is you are in on turkey.
Does she stuff?
Oh,
Does she stuff the bird?
Does she stuff? Jay, does she stuff the stuffing inside the turkey?
Yes.
That's your
That's
your
the
problem.
problem.
That's your problem, Jay. I love Mary Jo. She's an old school, old fashioned lady. That's what I love about her. But
Jay, I'll pass along to Matt my recipe from Michael Simon.
Of course.
Pass it to your mom as a settled hint.
Of course.
No offense.
No offense. No tapping on toes.
We still have 2 days. I could tell her.
I'm a turkey man. I know certain people at this round table like ham, which is just un-American and sacrilegious and horrid. But this is also the biggest non-American football fan in this group as well.
I have a true question too. How many of you have mac and cheese at Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we just started last year. Yeah, absolutely.
You're un-American, both of you.
All three of them raised their hand.
Whoa.
Mac and cheese is
It's delicious.
It
It's
is.
great. Not
It's
Thanksgiving, but
there are very few meals that are not improved with the side of mac and cheese. Very few.
Okay, Jay Walsh, we'll go to you to somewhat close us out. In or out on turkey?
So this is kind of an interesting response because as a taste, I am in. I do like turkey. I'm more of a dark meat. I'm more of a dark meat guy than a white meat guy personally, but I like both. I think turkey tastes good. I think it's a good addition. However, I am out on turkey simply because it takes forever to prepare. The way that my family has done it the last couple of years is we haven't done a turkey. We've done a bunch of like appetizers and sides, and then we did just last year we started doing like a turkey casserole kind of thing. So which we all enjoyed. It takes a lot less time to make than a full turkey, so we enjoyed it. So that's kind of what we're doing. But like I said, I am a turkey fan, but in terms of the preparation, I am out on it for that reason.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we've come to the conclusion. Matt, you mentioned somebody here is a ham person. That is me. Turkey is disgusting. I am so out on turkey. I'd also maybe because I've had bad experiences with turkey, like I literally can't eat it or I'll get sick. So that's fun. That may be part of my bias, but turkey is terrible. I take the same thing I say with a steak. If you got to eat a steak without A1, without any sauce, it's got to be perfect. You shouldn't need to add that stuff to it. Turkey, they're like, oh, you got to lather it with gravy. Or, oh, just eat it plain. No, it's bad both ways. It's awful. So give me the ham every day. Give me the mac and cheese every day.
Ham is a disgrace. You're a disgrace to the show for being a ham fan.
Hey, ham is delicious. Nice ham sandwich on rye bread while watching Tottenham Hotspur lose to AS Roma on Thursday. Oh, that's just going to be so perfect.
Hey, Jay Walsh, I just heard your comment. I have a newfound respect for you. Whatever Matt has said about you behind your back is totally untrue.
Yeah. I'm sure he said a lot, particularly about my lock of the week record this year. But I appreciate
that's the only slander. I respect your golf game.
By the way, but before we end the show, I would just like to say I took Mr. Merrifield's advice and took Duke in this game, which based on the start of the game, I'm not feeling great about. So I just like to point that out that I did take the advice that was presented to me and not feeling great about it to start.
You have nothing to worry about. Nothing. By the way, good show tonight, guys. I've been paying attention all year, and tonight was one of your best.
Love to hear it. So it's just a real shame Cooper Flagg is on Duke because he would have won UConn the Maui. What can I say? Instead, they're playing for 7th place. So they're going to wrap it up.
In Colorado, at least.
Well, yeah, maybe. We'll wrap it up. First off, thank you to Mike Merrifield for joining in. That just absolutely incredible performance today. Our first guest on the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. Hopefully not his last visit here on the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. Love to have him back on again. Of course, you three, thank you once again for joining. This feels like the first week in a few weeks that all four of us have been here. So we're back at it. We're getting into, championship type performances coming up, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching. If you just stumbled across the Merrifield Sportsbook Show, well, you've missed most of the year, but you came at the right time. So make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, make sure you check out the other videos here on the Nick Burt Sports Network. As I mentioned, Tottenham, AS Roma in the Europa League on Thursday. For the rest of the world, that's just a Thursday. For us Americans, it's Thanksgiving. So I'm sure they'll find a way to lose that one. Can't wait to recap it. But make sure you keep tuned in here. We'll be back here next week. Conference Championship Week preview. Can't wait for it. We'll see you again soon for another episode of the Merrifield Sportsbook Show.